Ready to dive into a real classic today, The Little Prince.
Oh, I love this book.
It's one of those stories that just stays with you, no matter how old you get.
Absolutely.
What is it about this book? Why does it still resonate so much with us, even as adults? I mean, it's called The Little Prince,
Yeah.
but I don't know anyone who didn't read it until they were far past being a little prince or princess. And we've got our expert here to help us figure that out.
Well, it's interesting because The Little Prince, it really does work on these multiple levels. I mean, yeah, it's a children's book on the surface, but woven through it are all these really profound reflections on life and love and loss.
Yeah.
And it's all seen through the eyes of a child.
Yeah, and it grabs you right from the start, too. I mean, that part with the boa constrictor drawing, I remember as a kid, those drawings made perfect sense to me. But the adults could only see a hat.
Right.
Like what? It's clearly an elephant inside a snake.
Exactly.
Saint-Exupéry, he really knew how to set the stage for a story about looking beyond the obvious.
I think that's right. Those drawings, especially that first one with the elephant inside the boa constrictor, it's like he's playfully poking fun at the way that adults see the world.
Yeah.
They lose that sense of wonder.
Totally.
And it really highlights, I think, the central theme of the whole book, which is how important imagination is.
It is.
That idea of seeing with the heart.
And speaking of which, that line, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye."
Yes.
That's like a cornerstone of the whole book. Don't you think?
It really is. I think it gets to the heart of what Saint-Exupéry is trying to tell us. Because adults, we get so caught up in logic and reason and what we can see and measure. And in that process, I think we often lose touch with that childlike sense of wonder, that ability to just appreciate what really matters, even if we can't explain it or quantify it.
Yeah. Have you ever, misjudged something just based on how it looked, only to realize later on that there was so much more to it than you initially thought?
Oh, absolutely. It reminds me of this old compass. It's all beat up, and my grandfather gave it to me. It barely even worked, and I almost got rid of it, thinking it was just a useless trinket, basically.
Oh. But then I found out that he used it when he was a young man, on his travels, and suddenly it wasn't just a compass anymore. It was like this tangible link to his adventures and, his spirit. I still have it on my desk, actually.
I love that.
Yeah, it's just a good reminder to look beyond the surface.
That is a perfect example of exactly what The Little Prince is trying to teach us, I think. Don't be fooled by appearances. The most precious things in life, love, connection, meaning you can't always see those with your eyes. You have to open your heart.
And that's where our little prince, that's where his journey takes us next, right? He leaves his own little planet and he just goes on these incredible encounters. And let's be honest, some of them are hilarious and some of them are heartbreaking, but they always make you think.
They do. They really do.
Yeah.
And I think each encounter, whether it's with that power-hungry king or that self-absorbed businessman, it's like they all act as this kind of distorted mirror. They reflect our own human tendencies.
It's like a funhouse mirror, but for your soul.
Yes, exactly.
You see these characters and they're so caught up in their own little worlds and their own desires that they just completely miss the bigger picture. And then there's that fox.
Oh, the fox.
That's when the book gets really real for me.
Yeah. It's such a pivotal moment in the story.
It is.
When the little prince meets the fox.
Mm-hmm.
The fox with his kind of yearning to connect and these really profound insights.
Yes.
He really gets to the heart of what it means to build a meaningful relationship with someone.
And he does it all through this idea of taming, which isn't really about taming at all when you actually think about it.
No, not at all.
Right.
The fox's definition of taming is really about cultivating these deep, meaningful bonds that make two beings special to each other.
Yes.
It's that time, that patience, that vulnerability that you need to create something really unique and lasting between two people.
It really makes you think about, what if we actually applied this idea of taming to our own lives? Think about, the friendships that you've had, that have lasted, or relationships that have been through a lot.
Yeah.
It takes that same kind of care that the fox is talking about.
It's so true. And it's not just romantic relationships or friendships,
Right.
The beauty of the fox's wisdom is that it really can apply to all kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
It made me think about, the effort that we make to stay close with family when they live far away, or even just those little, almost insignificant acts of kindness that nurture the relationships with our partners.
Totally.
You know what I mean? It all comes down to that same idea of taming.
And I love how he even talks about rituals.
Yes.
You know, how the hunters dancing on Thursday made that day special.
Oh, I love that part.
Yeah.
That's so good.
It's about finding those things.
Yeah.
Those little things that give our relationships meaning.
Absolutely. And taking responsibility for the bonds that we make.
Yes.
Because, the fox tells the little prince as he's leaving, right? He says, you become responsible forever for what you have tamed.
Oh, that line, such a good line. It gets me every time.
It's a really powerful reminder that the relationships that we build, the connections that we make with other people, they stay with us.
Yes, they do.
And we have to honor that.
We do. It's like those people become a part of us.
They do.
And we owe it to them, I think, to treat those connections with care.
Yeah. It's not always easy, though, is it?
No, it's not.
Because life,
Life happens.
it gets in the way.
Yeah.
But you're right.
But this book,
Yeah.
it reminds you not to lose sight of what really matters.
It does. And to hold those connections close.
Yes.
Because they're really what makes life, rich and beautiful.
It's like the little prince's rose.
Yes.
Exactly.
So much more than just a flower.
Right. She's love, she's beauty.
Yeah.
She's even that little pang of, sadness and loss that we feel sometimes. Oh, absolutely. It's heartbreaking when he finds that whole garden of roses.
I know. It's like that feeling when you realize that maybe what you thought was so unique
Yes.
isn't actually that special.
Oh, it's the worst.
We've all been there.
Yeah. But that's when the fox comes back in.
He does.
And he reminds us that it's the time we spend,
Yes.
the love that we invest.
That's what makes something truly special.
It is the time you have wasted for your rose that makes your rose so important.
Man, that's such a good line.
It is.
It's so true, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
We find joy and meaning not just in the things themselves, but in the time and the care and the love that we pour into them.
Yeah. Like when you see an artist who's dedicated their life to their work.
Yes. Or like those people who dedicate their lives to a cause. It's that commitment that makes what they do so extraordinary.
It does. And even though the fox helps the little prince see how important his rose is,
Right.
he goes to all these other planets.
He does. It keeps going.
And he learns about all the ways that people mess up
Yes.
when it comes to relationships and connection.
He really sees it all, doesn't he?
He does. He meets the king with no subjects, the businessman who can't see the beauty in the stars.
Right. Like, they're funny, but also a little bit unsettling.
Totally. They're like, oh, that's a little too real. It's like he's holding up a mirror to all of us.
He is. And saying, look, you humans can be a pretty ridiculous bunch.
Yeah, but in a compassionate way.
Oh, absolutely.
Like he gets it.
He understands why we are the way we are.
Yeah.
And that maybe we're all just searching for meaning in our own way.
Which brings me to the lamplighter.
Oh, the lamplighter.
Yes.
Because he always felt different to me.
He does, doesn't he?
Like, out of all the characters, he's the only one who's really found his purpose,
It's so interesting, right? Because on the surface, what he does is so simple.
It's just on and off, on and off.
Yeah, I mean, how much meaning can you really find in lighting and extinguishing a lamp over and over again?
I know, but he loves it.
He does.
And it made me think maybe it's that dedication, that sense of duty
It could be.
that makes it so fulfilling for him.
Or maybe it's the beauty of what he gets to witness every night.
The stars.
Yeah, those twinkling stars. Just imagine, it's like a reminder that meaning can be found in the most ordinary things.
As long as we're open to it. Exactly. And, it makes you think about those people in your own life who find so much joy in the everyday things.
Yes, totally.
The people who approach their work, whatever it may be, with this incredible dedication.
It's inspiring.
It really is. And it brings us back to the heart of the story, doesn't it? That rose.
His rose.
The one he left behind.
And that ending, though.
It
gets me every time.
Did the little prince ever make it back to his rose?
I don't know. Did that sheep eat her?
Saint-Exupéry leaves us with that question.
And it's so hard because you want to know. At least I do.
But maybe that's the point.
You think so?
Maybe the beauty of the little prince isn't in finding all the answers,
Mm.
but in letting ourselves be okay with the unknown.
I like that. So what do you think happened to the rose?
What do you think happened? Maybe that's a question we all have to answer for ourselves.
Maybe you're right. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but remember, in one of the stars I shall be living. In one of them I shall be laughing. And until next time, keep looking up.